Imagine a world hidden within our society, where the only thing that matters is power. It's a twisted world, where the only thing that defines your position within this world isn't money or influence. It's not about who you know or who can vouch for you, but your strength and prowess in martial arts. The rules of this world are created by those who are strong. The strong own all of it, even the lives of others. Once this world has its claws dug into your life, there's almost nothing you or anyone can do to release you from its clutches. The name of this world? Murim. This is the world that Shi-Woon unknowingly and unwelcomingly became a part of when he asked a simple request of Han Chun-woo, a mysterious and powerful man whom he will find out is more dangerous and important than he could have possibly imagined. I want you to teach me martial arts. The Breaker was created by artist Park Jin-Hwan and writer Geuk-Jin, and began serialization in August 2007. The series follows the aforementioned protagonist, Shi-Woon, as he changes from being someone who is both weak physically and in character, into someone who not only shakes the very fabric of the Murim world, but into someone whose existence becomes a legend within this world. But before all that, we're going to start from the beginning. Shi-Woon, a first year at the Nine Dragons High School, was never the strongest. In fact, he was rather physically weak, and coupled with this meek demeanor, he became an easy target for the school bully, Chang-Ho, where he would be extorted for money if not beaten for not cooperating. Because of his fear of things getting worse, he doesn't confide this to the teachers, who aren't innocent in all this, as they berate him as well for his lack of backbone. He also doesn't confide in his best friend, Seihi, for fear of getting her mixed up in this situation. It was after another scheduled beating where he meets this strange man who takes his own turn in mocking Shi-Woon for being too cowardly to even throw a punch. Adding insult to injury, we find out that this man is in fact Han Chun-woo, the new homeroom substitute teacher. There's a minor confrontation between Han and Chang-Ho, which doesn't amount to anything as Han submits to humor to defuse the situation. After school, Shi-Woon thinks of the hypocrisy in Han's words, asking himself what he's supposed to do if the teacher can't confront Chang-Ho himself. Some higher power must have heard this, as by chance a flyer on the apartment notice board advertises classes in self-defense. Now home, Shi-Woon finds a letter left by his mother alongside some allowance, where we find she will be home late because of work. Something that, by Shi-Woon's expression, doesn't seem to be a rare occurrence. Fed up with how his life has been going, he takes the flyer and goes into the night, where he stumbles upon Han being taken into a back alley for some issues he was having with some bouncers at a hostess club. Things look bad, turning worse when suddenly, this happens. Han continues to gleefully go on a rampage and goes on to wipe the floor with these goons, Shi-Woon recording the whole time. The next day, Shi-Woon gets beaten and extorted by Chang-Ho, this time to an audience as well as Seihi, after which he pushes her away exclaiming she has nothing to do with it. Shi-Woon then runs up to the roof, where we also find Han seducing a female teacher, and Shi-Woon reasons that he would rather die than continue to let Chang-Ho make his life hell. Han, upset his chance is ruined by Shi-Woon killing the mood by trying to kill himself, drop-kicks Shi-Woon over the edge of the railing. Now clinging for his life, he pleads his teacher to save him, who goes on a tirade, asking Shi-Woon if he really wanted to do the deed, why is he thinking so much about it? And then he kind of goes into how he lost his chance and whatnot. Yeah, kind of a rude as hell thing to do. Shi-Woon, put off by this, asks for help. Han agrees on the condition that Shi-Woon can never attempt to kill himself again. He tearfully agrees, and as Han helps him up, the rusted railing gives way and they both plummet off the school building. However, as there's little options left, Han slows their fall by using the railing as a temporary surface, just enough to kick off an angled wall and right onto the vice principal's car, totaling it as he lands. Shi-Woon then wakes in the infirmary unsure how he was saved, finding pieces of glass on his shirt. Now in class, the teacher, not Han, calls out Shi-Woon, saying a girl reported his altercation with another student, asking who it was. Chang-Ho fesses up, but takes control of the narrative, saying that it was just a simple misunderstanding. The teacher then takes the most rational decision and insults his student in front of the class for sending his girlfriend to the teachers and then forcing him to shake hands with Chang-Ho. Once the teacher leaves, Chang-Ho, now more than a little upset, promises Shi-Woon he'll meet this girlfriend soon. Back at home, we finally meet his mother, who at this point is just leaving for work. He brings up wanting to change schools, but because he couldn't give her a proper reason, she brushes it off and doesn't give it much thought as she's quite literally out the door, leaving Shi-Woon alone. Back at school the next day, we find Shi-Woon actively avoiding Chang-Ho, reasoning that if he doesn't bump into him, then everything will be fine. Honestly, I think if he lays low long enough— oh, never mind. It's revealed that Chang-Ho has found out that it was Sei-hee who reported their fight to the teacher and tells Shi-Woon to bring her to them after class, threatening that he already knows what will happen. With little options left, he comes up with a solution. He goes to Han and threatens to release the video he took of him to the public unless Han fights Chang-Ho and his goons. Annoyed, Han agrees, but after asks Shi-Woon if that's alright, explaining how he's only a temporary teacher that will leave in about 2 months, after which the bullies will then double the torment on him. Shi-Woon asks what he's supposed to do then, Han brushing it off as it's not his problem, and it's because the boy refuses to face his problems that this will continue to happen. This sends Shi-Woon in hysterics, questioning Han if he's ever been beaten day after day to the point of contemplating suicide on a daily basis. But Han brushes this off again, reversing the question towards Shi-Woon and saying if he was desperate enough to end his life, why is it that he couldn't use that desperation to fight back? Going on to say that it's because of his lack of courage. Shi-Woon mutters that he doesn't have the strength. This angers Han, as it's his turn to yell, saying that anyone with strength can fight back, but courage is having the resolve to fight back, with or without the strength to do so. He finishes by saying that without the courage to save himself, no one else will, and promptly leaves, washing his hands of the situation. Alone again, Shi-Woon contemplates on what he should do, and I hate to say this, but he actually reasons that he should bring Sei-hee to Chang-Ho, figuring that they're still just students. Nothing actually drastic or anything like that will happen that will have huge consequences, believing this to be the best solution at the moment. He begins to look for her, but looks like she finds him first, calling out to her dear friend, a warm, welcoming, and understanding smile on her face. They sit a while, Sei-hee reminiscing about some past events, until she brings up the problems Shi-Woon has been having, apologizing for not realizing what was going on, and even offering if there's anything I can do to help. At this, Shi-Woon only replies, "Anything you say?" We now find ourselves in a familiar alley, where Chang-Ho and his goons wait, chatting amongst themselves about whether or not Shi-Woon will actually show up, when eventually, he does. He comes around the corner, alone. One of Chang-Ho's goons asks where the girl is, demanding Shi-Woon call her out, striking him. Shi-Woon mutters something. The goon confronts him on what he says, and then it happens. Everyone is taken aback, but the guy punches and grabs Shi-Woon just to be stopped by Chang-Ho, who confronts him, asking him if he wants to die. Shi-Woon begins to tremble, but his piercing glare does not waver, which surprises Chang-Ho, vocally expressing his confusion. Shi-Woon swings at Chang-Ho, but then begins to get beaten far worse than he had ever been. And as we watch this torment, we get to also see what Shi-Woon is thinking. How Sei-hee had made him come to his senses, accepting what he had thought of doing was truly cowardly, loathing himself for being a bastard. He gets beaten down to the floor, his thoughts going on about he could end his life because of how much he hated himself. But he gets up, swearing to himself and to the heavens that he will change, as he leads his final charge. We cut to a tired Han, staying late to work on some documents he'd been putting off, a demand from the vice principal. Scanning the area to make sure he's alone, He leaps over the building, landing on a ledge above Shi-Woon's unconscious body. He wonders how he keeps running into him and decides it's none of his business, and leaps onto the building opposite the first. But before he can leave, he hears a voice. A voice coming from none other than the unconscious Shi-Woon. Shi-Woon wakes to find himself in the gym storage room with his teacher. He describes how he stood up against the bullies, to which Han basically says, "Good for you, good luck." But Shi-Woon has a different plan, as he then asks Han to teach him martial arts. He accepts that he can't defend himself on courage alone, so he now wants to be trained correctly. Han tries to deflect the notion, but Shi-Woon threatens to put the video up on the internet. Being reminded Han would kill him if he puts up the video, Shi-Woon stands firm, claiming he was determined enough to die when he asked him. Han, taking these words into consideration, decides to give him a test. We follow the pair out to a bridge that crosses a river. Han goes on to explain how, by being trained by him, Shi-Woon is entrusting his life and soul to him. By learning these techniques that the general public can't understand as anything but miracles, there is a great risk of losing his life. If Shi-Woon wants Han to train him, he has to jump off the bridge into the river. Shi-Woon at first protests, including to mention his inability to swim, but Han ignores this, saying if he truly is willing to live in this dangerous world, the risk from jumping off a bridge is nothing. Shi-Woon is rationally shocked. Seeing this, Han assumes Shi-Woon is scared enough to quit getting training from him, and starts walking towards land, whispering in disbelief that he would go this far to scare him like this. Shi-Woon whispers, "If I really jump off, you're going to teach me how to fight." And before Han knew it, he jumps. This is the first time we see Han truly shocked, in disbelief that his scare tactic had in fact failed. Shi-Woon crashes into the river with a huge splash, surfacing soon after, gasping for breath as he calls out for his teacher. Unsure of what to do and not wanting to bring any attention to himself, he tries to leave, telling himself that he shouldn't be sticking his neck out for this kid. Luckily, some passerbys saw a kid jump, and a group of people started collecting around the spot Shi-Woon was just at. They start questioning Han about what had happened, but Han can't respond fast enough as the crowd hears the young Shi-Woon cry out. The crowd now gets incredibly suspicious about this guy, who's apparently this kid's teacher, and isn't doing anything about his pupil having just thrown himself off a bridge. Thrust into a corner, Han decides to have a gallant display as he exclaims he's just now realizing the boy is in fact his faithful disciple, and dashes from the railing into the river to save him. And as Shi-Woon sinks lower into the river, darkness surrounds him. He asks himself if this is how he's gonna die. And if it is, then his life, up to that point, really does seem meaningless. Shi-Woon regains consciousness in the hospital, Han sitting next to him complaining his Italian shoes might be fakes. Shi-Woon asks Han if he's really going to teach him martial arts. They get into a lax argument about Shi-Woon and Han's phones being destroyed. But Shi-Woon persists, asking Han if he'll still teach him. It's here we find out Shi-Woon knew the whole time that Han was just trying to scare him. Han asks him why he still jumped. Shi-Woon explains that he truly believes in Han, as he's the only one who's been there for him, and had saved him on several occasions. And that there's no one else that Shi-Woon feels he can actually rely on. He believes that if he can't believe in Han, maybe he would be better off getting himself killed. Han gets up to leave, and at the same time tells Shi-Woon to take care of his body and to keep going to school, finishing by mentioning Shi-Woon will probably want to quit after a couple of lessons anyway, leaving Shi-Woon in a happy mood. We follow Han outside as he ponders whether Shi-Woon truly knows what faith is. This is simply the beginning of Shi-Woon's journey, one filled with pain, loss, and the uncovering of a soul that may very well have the power to reshape this world known as Murim. If you've not heard of the Breaker before, I hope I've done an adequate job in picking your interest. And if you have heard of or read it, I hope this was a fresh reminder of a great series I feel deserves more mainstream attention. If you still want to know more about the series, there are several resources, but I'll be releasing more videos like this going over the rest of The Breaker. That being said, I highly suggest you support the official release of The Breaker and The Breaker New Waves, which is a continuation of the events in the former. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time, as we continue through the journey of Shi-Woon as he trains under Han Chun-woo, the Gumun Ryong.